Miss Key's private lessons.
All right.
Take one.
It's gonna be my voice like this on the recorder. I put your packets on your desk. All right, so the first problem says translate triangle or angle ABC and segment ED along line or ray FG. So we're gonna start with angle ABC. So that's this angle right here. And then vector FG is this one here. So what does a vector tell you again, Jimmy?
How many units the shape goes over in?
And it tells you the distance and the direction. So we gotta use we actually have to measure the vector. So you can use your protractor or your ruler, and you gotta measure to see how long FG is. I would centimeters. This is all in centimeters. So you're gonna measure it, and you should see that it is 5 centimeters. And this one is actually straight across the page to the right. This one isn't at an angle. So whenever we move these points, we're going to move it every single point here 5 centimeters to the right. So I'm going to figure out what 5 centimeters to the right here is. And then I'm just going to move A 5 centimeters to the right. And then I'm going to label this new point here A prime. And it actually helps if you don't draw that line very dark. I'm going to draw it dark so that people could see it on the video that I'm making. But if you don't draw it dark, it's a little bit clearer because you're actually going to connect the points in this angle. So after you draw A prime, what should you do? Do the same thing for B. So B is going to be the same distance. It's going to be 5 centimeters. And make sure that it's also, the line that you're drawing is still parallel to this line. And then you're going to label that one B prime. And then the next one for C, you're going to do 5 centimeters again. And this is C prime. And this is an angle, so you got to connect all of your dots. So here's my translated angle. I translated angle ABC to become angle A prime, B prime, C prime. So I translated over 5 centimeters. Okay. This one also says to translate segment ED. So here's ED down here. And you do the same thing, but do it with this line segment. So we needed to figure out how to move this one the same distance, so still 5 centimeters. So go ahead and try and do that one. You're just moving E and D 5 centimeters to the right. Jake, do that one. So especially when these lines get when they start getting diagonal, you got to make sure that if this is so my distance from E to F, this was my starting point. You got to make sure that those are all the same. So E to F was about 7.5. So then if I measure E to C or E to G, it's still about 7.5. So if this was my original point and this is where it started, I'm going to measure that distance. It's 7.5. And then if I measure E prime to G, which is where I moved everything to, it's still 7.5. So eventually you'll get lines like this where they're diagonal and they're a little bit harder to draw because they're not straight across. You got to make sure that the distance between the point and where you moved it to is the same. That's a little bit easier on a coordinate grid because the points are already drawn out. But here, there's no coordinate grid, so it's a little bit harder. Do you guys think that you could start doing some of this on your own? Yeah. So if you want to work in a group, I'm going to keep doing stuff on the board up here, and Miss Pollock will be in here in a little bit to work with some people in a small group. But you can move to a different spot if you want. You may work with a partner. if you are working, I'm gonna say no one works on the couch because you do